How to make a web page. In this video, I'll be showing how you can make a web page using HTML hypertext markup language tags. And we're starting with two windows open on a computer. I suppose you could also do this on a tablet or a phone, but I'll be using a laptop computer for this. And I have two windows open. I'll show you how I opened this one in a moment. This is simply a text editor. So you can just type words into this, words into the text editor. And over here is a web browser. I have Chrome open, and it's open in a guest window. So first, let me show you how to start your web page. So a web page is just a file, and I'm going to close out of this one. I'm not going to save it. In fact, I'm going to put it in the trash. And the easiest way to make a web page, start a web page from Windows at least, this might be different in iOS, is to just right click on the desktop and then go down to New and then go down to Text Document. And when you click Text Document, it's going to ask what you want to name it. Now this is kind of important. This is in fact extremely important because you need to be able to see the .txt here. And if you see that, that needs to be changed into .htm. The rest of the file name can be whatever you want really, but let's just call it first page like that. And I'm just leaving out spaces and capitals and things. The alternate way of doing this, it'll ask, do you really want to change the file name extension? So do you want to change the txt to HTML? And the answer of course is yes, because you want your web browser to identify this file as opening in the web browser. Or to be more specific, you want your operating system to associate this file, or well, it already has HTML associated with a certain browser, and so that's what you want. You'll notice that whatever your default browser is, the icon for that will come up on this page. Now another way to open that would be to go to Notepad, and you open Notepad, and then you could do the exact same thing. Now in the case you open up the text document with Notepad, you will just go to File and then Save As and then select probably Desktop. You'll notice it's going to try to automatically save as a .txt text file. And so again, you're going to want to change that to HTML, or alternately HTML would be okay. And then again, give it some name like my first page or my first web page, and then save it. And it should appear on the desktop somewhere. Yep, so there it is. To open it in your browser, again, to open the browser, I figure you probably know how to do that. I would just open a new tab in the browser, and then you can either just drop your page in there like so, or there might be a way to navigate to that file if there's an open command somewhere in here, but it's probably easiest just to drop the web page on there. Okay, so I'm going to delete one of these because I don't need two, and I think that might be confusing. I'm going to open this up, but how do I open it up in Notepad? Well, that's a good question. So if you right click on it, and then you go down to Open With, you can go to Notepad, and then if you hold down the window key, it looks like a little window with four little panes, and then the left arrow, and you can set it up for half your screen. And in Windows 10 and probably Windows 11, you can adjust the windows a little bit. I'm going to just pop those around, hopefully until I get them in the right spots there. Doop. Maximize, there we go, half and half. Okay, so the first step is really to get that file saved with a .htm file name extension. If it doesn't look like it worked right for you, just go back and delete whatever you made and make it all again. If you do not put the .htm there, it can be kind of tricky because sometimes Windows will hide the file name extension, and so it won't show anything after the final period in the file name, and so you'll need to go back and take a look at it. All right, so I have this page opened in Notepad. I'm going to also open it in my browser, and I suppose I can put it here or anywhere, and it'll show you kind of the address or the folder and the file name. Okay, so now starting a web page. Web page is basically a text document. So press enter 3 times, 1, 2, 3, and then type, "This is my first page," period. Okay, so if you save that, and you can of course pause this video and you can put it on 1.5 speed or 2.0 speed, but when you write something, you'll see there's a little asterisk that occurs here. That means that there's been a change since the last time you saved. And so if you press File and then Save, or you hold down the CTRL button, which is in the lower left-hand corner, and then tap the S, it'll do the same thing. That's called a Control S. That's a save command, and then you will have saved it. Now, to refresh or reload, you tap this little button here, and it'll show this is my first page. So many decades ago, when the internet was first being put together, web pages were not really web pages at all. They were just text pages, and there weren't images or color or anything. And so the HTML language was developed, and the whole premise of the HTML language is that you need to start with a tag, and the tags all start with is less than signs. So now where is that is less than sign? Well, it's next to the M. You need to hold down a shift key, probably the left-hand shift key, and then tap the is less than sign. We're going to call that the left bracket, although it's not really a bracket exactly. And then type HTML in lowercase letters, and then put your is greater than sign there. So this is going to indicate when the browser reads that tag that this page is going to have HTML tags in it. And the HTML tags can do all sorts of things like changing the color or adding a picture or adding a link, all sorts of things like that. And so we're going to go through these things step by step. The first thing we're going to do, though, is make sure that we have a title on the page. And so if you press enter 2 times, there are 2 primary sections of a web page. The first section is called the head section, and the second section is called the body section, which we'll get to in a moment. In the head section of the web page, the top of the web page, there is something that is called the title. And so you put your left bracket, then TITLE, and then the right bracket, and that's title. Now, whatever is typed after title will appear in the title bar and the bookmark and the favorite of this page. So we can even save it right now and press refresh, and notice that the text is now in the title bar. Okay? Because anything that comes immediately after the title tag is going to be placed up in the title bar. Now, the title bar clearly is not particularly long, and the more tabs you get, the shorter it gets. If we were to bookmark this, where's my add bookmark? I know it's in there somewhere, but if we were to add this as a bookmark, then that would be the name of the bookmark. Okay, but in this case, let's give it a slightly different name. So I'm going to leave a space just for making it easier to read for you and me and anybody else. And let's just write first web page with just first letter caps, like that. Okay. Now, you don't want the entire page to go up into the title bar, of course. So now to indicate to the browser that you're done doing something, you write the exact same tag, but inside of the brackets, you put a slash. So this is a /, and it is the same key as the question mark key, except you don't need to press the shift key. So then TITLE, and then the other bracket. By doing that, you've indicated to the browser that this is the end of the title, and everything coming after that is not part of the title. So let's save it again and refresh, and you can see that that went into the title and that nothing else went into the title. Now, from time to time, people will say, can I change the color of that? Generally, no, although I have seen websites where this icon will be different, and that would be a different lesson for probably a different teacher. Okay, so the head section, to end the head section, and I'm going to skip lines as just a way to make it easier to read. You type the same head tag, but this time you put the / in front. Couple things here. It is very important you type each tag correctly, because the web browser has been programmed to read these particular tags, the HTML tags, and if the tag is missing a letter, for example, then it will not read that tag. And it might be able to skip the error, but in some cases it won't be, and then that will be the end of your success. For example, I've seen many people type title incorrectly like this, and if you save it and refresh it, you're going to end up having a blank page because it's trying to put that, and I'm going to close this empty tab, it's going to try to put that into the title bar because it's waiting for the end title tag. It's continuing to put everything into the title bar until it gets to the end title tag. So it's extremely important that you type in these tags exactly as they need to be. Now, I mentioned there are two primary parts of a web page, the head and the body. So type in the body tag. Beneath your sentence here, press space a couple times or enter a couple times and type end body, and then a couple more enters and end / that is HTML. So that's the end of the web page. So save it. After you've done that, again, you can pause as much as you want. You can rewind, you can speed it up or slow it down, refresh it, and what you'll get is your title is here, and this is in your body of your page. So far so good. Nothing too complicated. So let's move on. In order to make a new paragraph, you can't just press enter and say, here is my second paragraph. Although I would like you to type that in there. So go ahead and type that in there and do a file save and a refresh, and you'll see that it totally ignores the fact that you put some spaces and enters in between the sentences. It left in one space, which is normal, but it did not do anything else there. So the reason for that is because in HTML, you need to indicate that each paragraph is its own paragraph by using a paragraph tag. So there's a paragraph tag. I'm going to add the space in front just so it's easier to read, but it's simply the letter P. And at the end of the tag, to indicate that this is the end of the paragraph, /P. So you do the same thing at the start and end of each paragraph to indicate that this is the beginning or end of a paragraph. And I'm going to put a third paragraph in here, and you should do the same. Let's call it my third paragraph is still only a single sentence. Period. End paragraph. Okay, so we're going to save that. And again, you can pause. You can type that in, refresh, and now you'll see we have our three sentences, three paragraphs, really. They're one sentence paragraphs, but they're still paragraphs. And now we have them in there. Okay, now formatting. One thing you can do with your text is you can format the text. For example, if you want to format the word first so that it is bold, the tag for bold is the bracket B bracket tag. The HTML code is just the letter B. So if someone says the code, that would be the word itself. If they're saying tag, they're referring to one of these little things that's between a open and closed bracket. Now, what's going to happen if I place a bold here? Well, you might be able to predict. Go ahead and save it and refresh it and see what happens. And yes, everything after that tag becomes bold. So in order to cause it to stop being bold, you need to put in an end bold tag like so. You can do very much the same thing with italices. So italices is when the letters are kind of tilted over. And so let's try that with the word second here. You'll notice that I am putting the tags right up against the word. It just makes it kind of easier to see which word it is that I'm changing the bold or italics on. So if you look closely, you can see this says first and this says second. You can also do underlining. Underlining isn't quite as common, and sometimes people will think that if something is underlined that it's a link to another website or another page. The code for underlining is just the U code. So the tag is just bracket U bracket, and the end tag is bracket / U bracket. And go ahead and do that as well. And that way you have an idea about how to format your text with bold, italics, and underline. Now, if you wanted to do both bold and italics, for example, generally you would nest those. So suppose I want to make single, bold, and italic. So I'm going to make it bold. So you can do this as well. And then to also make it italic, on the outside of this text here, I'm going to put the italics. So rather than having, and I'll show you what I mean in a moment. So I'm going to start the italics here, then I'm going to start the bold, then I'm going to turn off the bold, then I'm going to turn off the italics. Now, would it make a whole lot of difference the other way? Perhaps not. Perhaps it would depend on the browser, but I think it's easier to read this way, and it's probably likely that in programs that make are used to make HTML tags, that it is done in kind of more of a nested fashion, I guess you could say. I'm going to use Control-Z and see if I can undo that little change I just made. I can only do a single undo, so I'm going to try to paste that back there. There we go. Save it. So far we have figured out how to put the title in the title bar, text on a web page, separate paragraphs, how to bold something, how to italicize something, how to underline something, how to combine two of those. You could even combine all three of those, I suppose, if you wanted to. And of course, you could do all caps simply by typing all caps. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put in just horizontal rules. So a horizontal rule is simply a line that goes across the page. And while these aren't particularly popular at the moment, this is how you would do it. So underneath your bottom paragraph, press enter a couple times, and then the tag for horizontal rule is just HR, and then the other bracket. Now, years ago, tags could commonly occur on their own if only one tag was needed, but it's become common practice now to put on ending tags even where they aren't necessarily necessary. So I'm going to add this here just because it's kind of common practice if people are coding in HTML. So here is the underline. Another thing that is kind of pretty common is copy and pasting while you are making web pages. So I'm going to highlight this here. And if you're not sure how to highlight things, if you just hold down your well, first you have to click where you want the highlighting to begin, hold down the mouse button, drag across, let go. Oops, didn't quite do it. And then Control-C will copy. I'm going to click here, press enter twice, and Control with the letter V will paste. So that's a nice way to copy and paste. And we're going to save that and refresh it. Okay, so now I have a horizontal line here and a horizontal line here. The next thing, a lot of web pages will have not only a title, but they'll have like a heading of some sort on the page itself. Because sometimes in certain browsers, you don't even get to see the title in the title bar, or you have so many tabs open that you can't see what's up there anyway. So inside the body, let's put a little paragraph and write just the word heading, like so. And go ahead and pause this if you need a moment. Once you're done pausing, save it and refresh, and you'll see there's a heading there. Now, that's not quite exciting, is it? But you can change the heading because the paragraph tag is not the only tag that can be used to in HTML to format text. Try using the H3 tag, H3. So replace the letter P with H3. Do a save and a refresh and see what happens. Oops. You see exactly what happens, which is everything is now in heading style 3. So to turn heading style 3 off, you need to change this paragraph tag into a end heading style 3 tag, and then you can save it and refresh it. Now I'll leave it to you to try out the different heading styles. There are heading styles 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. For my purposes, I think heading style 2 would be perfectly adequate. So I'm going to go to heading style 2, save it, and refresh it. Okay. Now often on web pages, no matter what the web page is, sometimes you'll want to align the text, like align it in the center or the left or the right. And so there are a couple different ways of doing that. Common practice has become, if I remember correctly, putting a space inside of the tag where you indicate what sort of formatting is for that line, and then use the align word and then equals quotation mark center and quotation mark. So let's see if that works. File, save, refresh, and it does work. So that sends the alignment to the center. Now you might be able to, let's just test this out and see if it works the way I expect it to work. Align right. Yes, it does. And align left should probably just go back to the left. Exactly. So let's for now leave that at align center. Notice that alignment ends at the end of this tag just here because you've turned off the heading style 2 that began here. So the rest of the page is not centered. Now there is another way to do centering, but it's kind of fallen out of favor. You can actually use a tag that's just called the center tag. And I'll just show you that for a moment underneath this heading style. This is really not the preferred way nowadays though. So if you put this in a web page, it's quite likely that people will notice you're not really following the modern convention. So I certainly wouldn't do this with for a workplace. Okay, so that's why I deleted that off. So this is kind of the first steps, I would say, that we have, got to save that, that we've created a web page, we have it saved as a HTML file, we've created a head and a body, we've done some simple text editing, or not editing, but formatting. Now, this doesn't necessarily look like a web page as far as it doesn't have any color, it doesn't have any photos, and it doesn't have any links. So let's see if we can add some links. And this is one of the things that made web pages the most useful and important, was having links. So underneath this horizontal rule here, press Enter, Enter, and get ready for this tag and get ready to pause and rewind because this does take a couple more steps and a little bit of explanation. Okay, so suppose we have, what could we link to? We could link to weather.gov. So weather.gov, it's a website that gives the weather for the United States. Trying to think of a generic website internationally. I'm not really sure what the best one would be. But If you refresh that, you'll see weather.gov here. Now, why can't we just click on that and go to it? Well, because we haven't indicated which letters or characters here are to be made into the link and where it's to go. So this is how we do that. So click in front of weather.gov and just put a space and then left arrow once so that your blinking cursor is on the left side. And then the tag that we need is called an anchor tag. So the anchor tag, we start with an A, and then the anchor, the first anchor tag, the beginning anchor tag, needs to know what it's anchoring to. So you need a space immediately after the A, and then HREF. That stands for hyperlink, H for hyperlink, REF for reference. So this is going to refer what page we need to be pulled up by the browser. And so what page are we going to? What page are we going to load? So then put an equal sign and then a quotation mark and make sure it's the double quotation mark. And now we need the URL of the website. So most websites will start with HTTP or HTTPS if they're secure sites, then a colon, then 2 forward slashes, and then most often www dot, and then whatever the website is. So in this case, weather.gov. Now, this is not done though, so let's take a look closely. Whatever is inside the parentheses is what's going to go up into the link here. And we could stop halfway through right here and try to see what happens. Oh, it vanishes. Okay, and the reason it vanishes is because it's reading all of this from here to here as a single tag, because it starts reading with the is less than sign and it ends reading with the is greater than sign. So even if we put a is greater than sign here, it's not going to work quite right yet. We can try that. Nope, because we don't have the end quotation mark, which we need to have. So there's our end quotation mark. We can save it and refresh it. And there we go, weather.gov. When you park your mouse on that, you should see at the bottom of the screen that it indicates that it's going to go to that website. And if you click on it, it should take you there. So that's pretty cool. Now you could do that with any letter, any character, any photo, anything you have on your page that is an object around which tags can be put. Now we're not quite done with that link tag yet because we need to put an end anchor tag at the end. Now notice this end anchor tag does not need to have all the href and the HTTP because we're just telling it to stop. Stop. This is the end of the link. Stop. So let's save that and refresh it. And also, unless we want suppose we want to put more than one link, we want this to be its own paragraph. So we're going to add a paragraph tag at the beginning, like so, and a paragraph tag at the end, like so. Okay, now you're not going to notice any difference at the moment when we refresh this. Well, I guess a slight difference that it moved down a tiny bit, but not a whole lot of difference you will probably notice there. Okay, let's add one more tag. This one, let's see, where should we go? What I mean is let's add one more link. So we'll start it as a paragraph, then the anchor tag, then a space, then href for hyperlink reference, equal sign, quote, http:// I'm thinking of another government website. How about NASA? I guess a lot of people know about NASA, the National Aeronautics and Space Association, or administration, I should say, of the United States government. I suppose we could add the www here. I don't know that that's strictly necessary. And when you make your link, it doesn't have to be the same thing. It could say space info. So let's try that. Let's end our anchor and end our paragraph. And again, feel free to pause, feel free to fast forward or rewind. Let's refresh and we get a link that says space info, and when we click on it, it's going to go to nasa.gov. Or at least it should. If nasa.gov has lots of images, it might take a few moments to load up. Okay, so I'm going to change that to nasa.gov, N-A-S-A, capital letter, .gov. And, but the point is that just because you read a link and it says weather.gov does not mean it's going to go to weather.gov. It could go to a website where you do not want it to go. You don't want that showing up. So it's always a good idea to look and see where is it going. Is it going where you expect it to be going or not? So I'm going to save that and refresh it, and then we can move on to the next thing. So far you've learned a lot of basic skills, and probably the next one is adding some color to this page. And a lot of web pages on the internet won't format the color using the HTML tags. They'll use something called cascading style sheets, which allows all the web pages in a website that has many, many pages to have the exact same colors and styles and things like that. But there still is the ability to change the color of various things. And so let's start with, just a word here. How about the word still? Okay, so we're going up just a little bit. Click your mouse so the blinking cursor is immediately before the letter S in still, and I'll show you how to change the color of this word. So what color should we change it to? How about red? And red because I know how to do that quite easily. So first you start with a bracket, and then you want to change the font. So you type font and then a space. And I'm going to add an additional space, and then I'm going to back arrow once so the word still isn't kind of stuck on there. So font, we can change the color of the font, and that is the US spelling of color, so make sure it's C-O-L-O-R. Then equal sign, and then a quotation mark. Oops, and somehow I down arrowed, so I'm going to go back. Quotation mark, and then the number sign, and then type in the number for the color you want. So for the number of the color, this is, let me see how I could explain this. So it's going to be 6 digits, but the digits can be higher than 9. They can actually be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, A, B, C, D, E, F. So 16 different digits, which is a hexadecimal numbering system. So the brightest possible red, and each color is indicated by 2 digits, is double F. And the red is the first 2 digits of the color. The next 2 digits indicate how bright the green pixels on your display or on the display will be. So I'm going to put 00 for that. And the last 2 pixels indicate how bright the blue is going to be. So I'm going to put 00 for that as well. Then a quotation mark to show that this is the end of the color tag, and then another bracket. So we can try this out. If you've made any errors at all in this, it probably will not work. Although browsers can be slightly lenient, like if you didn't put in a pound sign just here, it might still display the color correctly. Not saying it will, but it might. It really depends on the browser. So you can see starting after the word is and before the word still, or with the letter S, it changes the color of that. Now the links, the colors of those are not changed because by default they are blue, and then sometimes when clicked on they become purple, or when you're holding on them, see I'm holding down on this one, it is red. And so at one time browsers used to show links that had been used as purple, but I think that's very browser dependent, and I'm using the current version of Chrome. So how do we not have the rest of the words being red? Well, as you would expect, we just tell it to stop changing the font, like so. And you'll notice I put a space on both sides here, and we'll see what happens as far as the spacing when we save it and refresh it. And so it's only going to put 1 space between words, probably no matter how many spaces you put in there. So let's just try it out. I'm going to add 3 extra spaces in 2 places just to test. Exactly. So the browser is going to ignore those additional spaces. So if you want to have some extra space just to make it easier to read, you certainly can do that. Okay. So let's change the color of something else just for fun. Let's add a new paragraph. Okay. So new paragraph. This sentence has two different colors, here and here. End paragraph. Okay, so remember we can copy tags. So if we highlight this tag, we can right click and copy, or Control C, and then we can click and right click and paste, or Control V. And so let's change this one to green by replacing the middle two digits with double F. So double F, if we were to convert that into a decimal number, that equates to 255. So this is a hexadecimal number. So each digit has 16 choices instead of 10 choices in regular numbers. So double F, 255, that's the maximum brightness for the green. We have the red set at 0, and we have the blue set at 0. So we can save that and refresh it, and now we have green. Of course, we didn't tell the tag to end, so to tell the tag to end, we would need to say stop font, or we could copy and paste that. And when we save that and refresh it, you'll see same thing. Let's try a different color. So what color shall we try? How about yellow? Okay, so yellow isn't quite as easy because it's not red, green, or blue. Oh, I should just be pasting. Let's see if I can paste. Yep, there we go. All right, let me guess. What is yellow gonna be? Would that be all, I'm guessing that's all the, not any red, but it's all the green and all the blue turned on. So will your eyeballs perceive that as yellow? I don't know. I don't remember, but we can save it and we can refresh it and we'll find out. Oh, not yellow at all. It's a light, it's an aqua color. Well, how do we make yellow? Luckily, we have access to the internet and we can write color hexadecimal codes like so. And it should come up with HTML color codes. We could do that as well. Color chart, and yellow. Oops. I don't know if this is the website I want exactly for this. Let me see if there's a, I'm going to back up and go to images. Oh, I spelled hexadecimal wrong. So images, I think this is the one I want right here. That looks pretty good. Yellow looks like it's mostly red and green. Why don't we try all red and green and see what happens? Okay, so double F, 0. File save. I'm going to switch to first web page and refresh. Yep, that's pretty yellow right there. So I had it wrong. But that's kind of an interesting thing as far as perception. That is not actually yellow there. If you had a magnifying lens and you got really, really close to it, you would see that most likely, unless you're on a very special television that you're looking at this on, that's just actually the red dots, the pixels, very, very bright, and the green one's very, very bright, and your eye is just perceiving that as yellow. Now, it doesn't make any difference if you zoom up or not because it's still going to be the same pixel size. You're just going to be getting a lot more of the pixels. All right, now I don't want the rest of the page to be yellow, so to end that, you just put an end font tag there. Of course, all these tags are easy to make typos in, so it's important that you take a close look and see that you've got everything exactly the way it should be. Okay, yeah, so there we have it. Background color. So right now you can see the web page has a background color of white and the text color of black. So you can change that in the body tag. Okay, so let's see if we can do this or not. So in the body tag at the top, not at the bottom, that's the end body tag. So at the top, the body tag, put a space, and then put BG for background, color, and make sure you have exactly those letters, is equal to, what should we make the background color? How about a gray? So number sign, so black would be all zeros. So gray, let's try like all threes. 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, quotation mark. And of course that would end down here. So let's save it and refresh it. Whoa, that is a really dark gray. Maybe we want a really light gray. So let's try like all nines. 99, 99, 99. File, save, and refresh. Okay, I would even go brighter. So let's see. Remember, above a 9 is A, B, C, D, E, and F. So F would be white if we put all Fs. Let's see. File, save, refresh. Yep. But if we go back to, let's say, all C's, CC, CC, CC. So an equal brightness of red, green, and blue. These color numbers are called RGB hexadecimal triplets. So RGB hexadecimal triplets. So, if you want more information, you can, read about where did this come from, why is it this way, and stuff like that. Okay, but again, the first 2 digits are the red, the next 2 digits are the green, the last 2 digits are the blue. It goes anywhere from 0 to, in decimal, 255, in hexadecimal, double F. Okay, and you might be wondering, well, what if you put in G or H? Well, go ahead and try it. There's no harm in doing that. Okay, so we've changed the body color. We can also change the text color. So instead of having a heading of text color that's the black, we can just type text is equal to, and let's make the text white. So number sign, what would white be? White would be all Fs, double F, double F, double F, quotation mark, and save it and refresh it, and there we go. So we have white text and we have a gray background. And now we could change the background to a darker gray like that, 99, 99, 99, and it would probably look okay. Now again, a lot of these color things have, on most websites, I mean any professional website, this is going to be controlled by cascading style sheets, which a cascading style sheet is basically something that the browser reads to determine the colors of everything, and it keeps the website colors consistent from page to page to page. And that way, if you make a change on one, the problem used to be that if you made a change on one page, the color, then you have to do the same thing on other pages that you wanted to look consistent. But cascading style sheets allow you to keep everything looking nice and even. Okay, let's see what else we could. You could actually change the link color. I mean, there's several things you could change, but those are things that you can look up on your own. They're a little bit more advanced or sophisticated than necessary. Now, I should mention something about links. You can link to pages that are that you've made yourself, of course, that are like in the same location or even in a different location. So let's see, how are we going to do that? So I'm going to quickly make a new page by just copying and pasting what we already have. So I'm going to call this second page, and I've got to get rid of the .htm. And yes, I want to change it. Then I want to open it in a web browser. Actually, there's a different way I could have done this. I could have just saved this as the second page. I'm going to select all, Control A, Control C for copy, Control V for paste, and then I'm going to get rid of some stuff. Like I'm going to get rid of this color. I'm going to get rid of these links. I'm going to get rid of most of the paragraphs there. I'll just keep these 2 paragraphs here. Okay, so here's my second page. And the only reason I'm doing this is to show that you can link from one page to another page. So, back on my first page, I'm going to make a link to the second page that I just made. Here's how you would do it. So again, I want this to be a brand new link, just so. And I'm going to put A for anchor, href is equal to quote, and then all you need to do is put the name of the other page. But it has to be exactly correct, so I need to write second page.htm. Okay, so this is going to open up the second page, but it has to be in the same location or the same folder. If it was in a different folder, we'd have to add some other stuff. So I'm going to type second page here. I'm going to copy and paste these tags. So I have my beginning and end tag for the anchor and the paragraph. I'm going to save it. I'm going to refresh it, and then click on that, and it will open the second page. Now, it would be nice if I had a link that came back to the original page, but I can use the back button at the moment. So if you want to do that, again, you can turn this video on 1.5 speed. You can pause it as much as you want. You can see how that works. If you wanted to link into a page that was in a folder, so and you can do this along with me if you like. This is kind of interesting. You could make a new folder. So right click, make new folder. I'm just going to call this folder pages with all small letters. I'm going to drop my second page into the pages folder. So now it's in there. Now, when I refresh this page and I click on second page, it's going to be looking for second page on my desktop, but it's not there. So what's it going to do? It's going to say file not found. But what I can do is I can say, okay, you're going to look into the pages folder. So pages / for the second page.html file. So I'm going to save it, and I'm going to go back to this page. I got to refresh it. I'm going to click on it, and there it is. Now, if you look close in the address bar, it went into the pages folder to open up second page. Now, to make things even a little more complicated, suppose I want to edit the second page. So I'm going to edit the second page. So I'm going to open that in Notepad. And I'm going to try to link back to the first page. So that would be paragraph, anchor, href equals first page.htm. And if you put else on, of course, you have to make sure that's on there. First page, a paragraph. And let's see. So if I save that and go to here and refresh it, there's the link. If I click on it, it doesn't work. Well, why doesn't it work? Well, because this page is inside the pages folder. So how do I get out of the pages folder? Well, here's how you do it. You click in front of the file name, you put a double dot and then a slash. So what that will do is it will move up one level out of a folder, and that way you can move back to the original folder. So I gotta go back to my page, refresh it. Why did I put that below the horizontal rules, above the horizontal rules? I'm going to move that around just a little bit, like so. And again, you can just watch this part, or you can go along with it. This is kind of an aside, so I'm going quite a bit faster than I normally would. First page goes back to the first page. So if you look closely, when I go back and forth between them, and it goes back and forth between them. Now, what would happen if I put first page into the pages folder, and then I open that? Well, then the link isn't going to work because it's not going to go to pages inside of pages. Okay, so this is one of the disadvantages, I guess, and I'm going to put that page back on the top level. That's one of the disadvantages of using just web pages, a text editor to make a website. That, I mean, if you're going to make a lot of pages, you're going to want them all in the same folder probably. And if you're going to have subfolders, it's going to, take some time to make sure that the links are all working the way you need them to work. Okay, so let's see if we have everything working at the moment. Yes, I'm going to close the second page. I'm going to open up our main page. Okay, so let's see what else would be good to learn. You might be wondering, well, how do I get this on the internet? Very good question. So normally to get this on the internet, you would need to have a service which served up the web pages. So you either would need to have a server on your device so that people could pull the web page off of your device, or you would need to upload your web page to someone else so that they can serve your pages. So that's a different video for a different time. All right, now the next thing you might be wondering about is, how do I put a picture on my page? Well, let's do that. To put in a picture, you need to use what's called an image tag. So let's put the image tag, for now, at the bottom of the page. I'm going to scroll just a little bit so we can see that. The image tag is, the code for it is IMG. And then you need to let the browser know, where is this image? So the code for that is SRC, which stands for source. Then you'll put an equal sign and a quotation mark, like many other places. And just an aside, looking at these 3 links here, if any of your links aren't working, make sure that it doesn't say HERF, because if it does say HERF, it's not going to work. And also, if you're missing the space between the A and the H, it is not going to work. So, okay, coming back to this. So we need to have an address for the image. Now, sometimes we can link to an image that's on the internet. So let's try that. So open a new tab and search for, I don't know, flag. So I'm live in the USA, so I'm thinking USA flag, but you might live elsewhere and you might find a different flag. And I'm probably going to look for flag in the Wikipedia, because usually those files are free. Like this file here is probably free. Okay, so if you need to take a little time, that's fine. Look for a flag. And what we're trying to find is a flag image that will show up all on its own in our browser. And this used to be quite easy to find, but nowadays it's not quite so easy. So let me see if I can right click on this image and view image in its own tab. Open image in new tab. Let's see. Aha, so there it is. So this can be a little bit tricky. You might have to try several photos until you can find one that will appear in its own web page like this. So let me try one for another country, for example. So what would be another large country? India, for example. So flag of India Wikipedia. And I'm going to go to images, and this is an Wikipedia link in English. So I'm going to click on that. And again, I'm going to right click and see is open image in a new tab. There it is. Open the image in a new tab. Okay. So whichever flag you find, and I want to find one that's larger. This is like the thumbnail size. So I wonder if I can find USA flag Wikipedia with a larger size. I'm going to try this. Click this one, and then see this is 1200 pixels wide. Open image in new tab. I'm going to close this tiny one. And actually, I'd like to find, for the flag of India, I'd like the one that's 1200 pixels. So that's 1300, 1200. So I'm going to open that same one, just so I have files that are the same size. That's all. Oops, that was not what I meant to do. Right click, open in a new tab. I'm going to close the 800 one. Okay, so I have a flag, the flag of India. I have the flag of the USA. So how do we get one of these flags to show up on our web page? Well, I'm going to use the US flag. You can use whichever flag you want, of course. this is how we do it. First, we need to make sure that it is showing, again, all on its own in a tab. Okay, there should not be any text or any links or anything. It should just be the image. When you pass your mouse over it, I mean, it should do basically this. When you click in the address bar, and if you click a second time and you scroll over, it should end with something like this, PNG. And at the very beginning, it should, well, let me show you for a second. So go ahead and triple click or double click, whatever you need to do to get the entire line highlighted. Then right click and copy that address. Okay, now click your mouse just here so it's blinking where the quotation mark is, and then add another quotation mark and then the end bracket. Then add the end image tag. Now, this end image tag is probably not necessary, but again, I think it's pretty standard to add end tags even to things that don't necessarily need an end tag. Okay, so now your blinking cursor, and I wish I could zoom this up a little bit for you, but if you look closer, the blinking cursor is between two, I don't know why it stopped blinking, it's between two quotation marks or double quotes. Now we're going to paste the address from here in between there. And it doesn't actually matter where our mouse is parked. If we just right click, we can paste into that spot. Now, the reason I wanted to do this before, finish that tag before, is because this is going to be long, okay? So we're going to paste that in there. Look how long that is. And we could look very closely at this file name and see a lot of information about it. So first of all, here's the file name. The Wikipedia pages probably have very similar file naming. Flag of the United States, PNG. I think it comes from an SVG file originally, and it's 1200 pixels wide. It's in a folder called Flag of the United States.svg, which is in a folder called A4, which is in a folder called A, which is in a folder called Thumb, which is in a folder called EN for English, which is in a folder called Wikipedia, which is in a folder called Upload, which is at wikimedia.org, which is a secure HTTP website. So that's long. But again, you need to look closely that you have one quotation mark immediately before this HTTPS and another quotation mark immediately after the PNG. And of course, you have to have the bracket to end the tag. So these things you need to look at quite closely. Now, if you save it and go back to your page and refresh it, with some luck, your photo will be there. Aha. What your page is doing is it's actually pulling this image off of the internet. So if you are not connected to the internet, this page will not appear because it's drawing from that Wikimedia file server somewhere on the internet, or maybe many places on the internet. Okay. Now this image is super huge, and as you expect, there are ways to make this image smaller. So if you click, let's see, it would be just here. And okay, so perhaps I'm not supposed to do that, because I'm going to get rid of this end image tag because I'm not accustomed to using it, and I'm not 100% sure it's actually often used, so maybe it isn't. So click at the very end of the image tag, and then click between the quotation mark and the is greater than bracket. Then press one space, or two or three, it doesn't really matter, but there needs to be at least one space. And now you can tell your browser what width, and if you wanted to, what height, to make the image. And this will be in pixels. You'll need an equal sign. Let's see, width. Let's go with 300 to start with. And I'm pretty sure you don't need to put quotations around 300. If it doesn't work, try it with the quotation marks around the 300. Aha, 300 on my page looks a little bit small. I'm going to go with 600 and see how that looks. 600 looks too big. I am going to split the difference and go with 450 pixels wide. Yeah, maybe too big, but maybe not. Let's see, what else could we do? With images, you can also put borders around the images. So it could be like a little border or a wide border, and there's actually quite a bit you can do with borders. And again, I said you could also change the height. If you do change the height though, let's change the height first. Okay, Height, I hope that's spelled right, is equal to, now right now it looks like it's about 300. Let's say we made it 450. So we're going to make this image into a square image. File, save, refresh. It definitely does not look like it ought to. Okay. Try this one time. Highlight width equals 450 and then cut it, Control X. Control X. Save it. Refresh it. So now the height of the image is 450, but it will make the length, or the width, I should say, proportionate. So it doesn't squash it or stretch it or anything like that. All right, if you do a Control Z, if you click on the page and do a Control Z, it should put that back. If it didn't put it back, then click and do a Control V to paste it. All right. Now I'm going to get rid of the height tag because I don't want it to be square, and it's not really necessary for that purpose. So I'm going to write just width. Oops. I'm going to get rid of height. Now I'm going to put a border on. Now how big a border? How about, just for silliness, putting a border of a width of 50. So file, save, and refresh. And it put on a white border. I imagine it's putting on a border that's the same color as the background color. No, the same color as the text color. So if we change the text color, what if we change the text color to, I wish I knew all my color numbers. What if I take the middle two digits and change them to 0? What would that make? Would that make like a magenta? File, save. So it'd be FF00FF. That's text equals in the body tag. Save and refresh. Yes, it is magenta. Very difficult to read color, but we can see that the border is now 50. How about we change the border width to 10? And file, save, and refresh. So you can see you could put a border around an image. I don't know that borders are generally necessary, but you can do that. And I'm going to change my text color back to white now, because the pink, I think, is probably very difficult to read for not just a single person. In fact, maybe I'm going to change the background even darker. How about if I went, well, no, I guess we don't have to play with that. Now, this image and the image of the Indian flag and other images from the Wikipedia are probably free to use in most cases. So I wouldn't be concerned about saving these to your computer or device and using them as much as you wanted. If you really were curious, you could go to the page where this image was found and see if it said it was Creative Commons or public domain. But this is something that you can also do, which is to save the image to the same place where you have your web page. And then making the image tag is a little bit different. So go ahead and right click on the image that is in your browser, not the one that is on your web page, okay, but the one that is like all by itself that has this long domain name. Right click it, save the image as, we could have copied the image address there. That would have been helpful. If we right click and we go to save image as, and I already tried saving it once, so you'll see it's already there. Now I don't know exactly why it's saying WebP, but go ahead and save it. I'm going to replace. And now, you know, I should do that with the Indian flag. Let's try that. Save image as flag india.svg.webp. I'm not really familiar with that WebP file extension. But then let's go back to our page. We can close this little download info. Enter. We're going to add another image page, other image tag, and put the Indian or another flag on there. So img src is equal to quote. And in this case, rather than copying and pasting the address from the internet, let's get the file name that is right here. And if you just click on it a couple times, remember that is a .svg.webp. We're going to paste that address there. So this is going to pull this image into the browser, end quote, end bracket, file save, back here, refresh, and there it is. Of course, it's huge and it's smashed to my image of the United States. So I'm going to copy and paste the width and the border and put them right here. Again, you can always pause and rewind and put it on slow speed so you can see what I did there. Refresh, and now we have two flags. You'll notice there's no gap between them, no space between them. So you might want to put a paragraph tag in between, for example, like so. And then you'll have a little bit of space in between, like such. Okay. So we've learned how to make links. We've made links to websites. We've made links to our own page. We've learned to put in images that are on the internet, images that we have saved to our computer. By the same token, if you have an image that you wanted to appear on your web page, on your computer, any image, probably any image that's on your computer already would work just fine. But again, if you want people somewhere else across the internet to be able to view your page and your images, then all of those things would need to be uploaded to a server somewhere on the internet. Either that, or you would need to make your own computer into a server to serve web pages. There are programs that you can use for that, but then your computer, of course, would have to be on and connected to the internet, and you'd have to let people know what the exact address of your computer was so they could access the image. It's somewhat complicated, but it's possible and doable, especially if you have a spare computer that you could just leave on all the time, and you could have your own web server. It would work best if you had a permanent style internet connection like a cable or fiber or something like that. Probably not a dial-in phone line for a mobile hotspot. Okay, anything else? Well, can we move the images up next to the text? I think there's a way to do that. I'm going to have to pause this recording just for a moment. You probably won't even notice, and then I will let you know. All right, so we're going to try it. Let's take our second image tag, which is relatively short. Let's cut that with Control X, move up to immediately underneath the horizontal rule, just at the top of the page, just here. Okay, so we're right above where it says this is my first page. Press Enter twice and up arrow one time, and then paste. So now our image tag for this flag that we saved, the image that we saved, is above our text. Now let's save it and try refreshing it, and probably is not going to look great to start with. Okay, so we can see the image is just to the top here. Now let's try aligning this image so it's on the right-hand side of the screen and see what happens. So we've already got a width, we've already got a border. Let's make the width a lot smaller. Let's make the width 200. Save that and refresh that. Just make sure that that worked okay. Yep. And then let's align right. Align equals, quote, right. And save it. And refresh it. Hey, it worked. Did you see what it did? We aligned that on the right. A couple other codes that we can add to the image code. So these codes that work with the image code are actually called arguments. So this is an argument. This is an argument. Each of these is an argument. So we can do, I think, vertical space. Let's try is equal to 100 and see what happens. V space is equal to 100. Wow, so there's a lot of vertical space above and below. How about if we change that to H space? Refresh. So now there's 100 pixels on this side, 100 pixels on this side. So how about if we do H space is 5 and V space is 5? So that'll give us space on both sides. We already have a border that's 5. We could actually take the border width down to something much smaller, like 2, for example. So now we have like a 2-pixel border that's in the color of the text. We also have some vertical space and some horizontal space so that words wouldn't squash right up against that there. You might be wondering, can we align that on the left? And, well, why don't we try that and see what happens? So I'm going to make this half screen again, right here. Align left. Oops. File save. Refresh. Apparently we can. Notice that the horizontal rule here is also subject to this aligning. So, again, as far as styles on a web page, this is, not very nice looking. Cascading style sheets would be the way to go with this, or some other formatting tools. But at least we get an idea about how the HTML works here. Now, another question might be, can we align this to the center? And I think we can, but I don't think the wrapping would work. So I don't think the text would be to the side of the photo. Let's see. Nope. And in fact, it didn't even center it. So I'm going to put this back to align right. And yeah, doesn't look bad. And just because I don't want this photo to be huge, I think I'm going to move that to 200 pixels also. And I think that's pretty good. Okay, there is just rewinding a little bit. When you are doing colors, in some cases you don't have to actually type in the 6-digit number. You can type in the name of the color. And if you just think of the basic colors that you'd have in, coloring or painting, most of those colors are going to work. So if you type orange, I don't think you need the pound sign. I think you'd have to be without the pound sign. Then you'll get orange. If you type in purple, you'll get purple. And if you type in, I don't know what else, gold, I guess, or brown. So there's lots of colors that would work. There are a certain number that are defined in HTML. HTML named colors. And so you could search for this, and there's a list of all the ones that have names. Chartreuse. Is that what chartreuse looks like? Let's see. Can I put that in? Chartreuse. Chartreuse. File save. Refresh. Yep, chartreuse. Huh. I had no idea. What color did I have that originally? I've forgotten now. Oh, and I can see the green isn't showing up. I think I had it as white, right? So that was double F, double F, double F. File save. And refresh. So there are, in some cases, there are multiple different ways to do different things using HTML. But again, this should give you some of the basics on how to make a HTML web page, how to link to either page on the internet or one of your own pages, how to put an image on that's either an image on the internet or an image that you have saved in the same place. If the image was in a different folder, then of course you do more or less the same thing that we did with this link here, that we would have to say, oh, well, this image, I'll even show you real quick. So I'm going to make a folder, new folder called images. I'm going to drop these images into that folder, and then if I try to load the page isn't going to work because the image is not in the same place as the first page. But if I put in images / so the browser is going to look into the images folder, and then it's going to try to pull up this image. And there it is. So thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you learned a lot. Go ahead and rewind and rewatch and share, like, comment. If there's something that you'd really like to learn about HTML coding, please put that in the comments. I'll read all the comments, and perhaps I'll make a new video that shows you more tips, tricks, and things that you can do with HTML. Hope you enjoyed. Have a good one.